this is full spoilers. We'll be talking in depth about Bojack Horseman as a whole, all 6 seasons, front to back, and everything in between. Also, like we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, whatever. Just know that Bojack Horseman touches on a variety of subjects. So just be warned, just in case, something might get said or brought up or whatever that, might be, a
Trigger warning.
Yeah, trigger warning and stuff like that. So just wanted to be upfront about that, like I said, because like I said, even knowing before I went in that this show was going to cover various topics, they went beyond
Yeah.
what I expected on any account, because there's lots of shows that are like, oh hey, they're kind of touch on some stuff whatever, but some stuff kind of have like a line, but Bojack they like steamroll that line.
Yeah.
It's like,
Like
no,
I
yeah,
like they didn't have like most of the time when people say the warnings like that, you immediately, I don't know why my mind immediately goes to sexual assault. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, okay, it's gonna get something like that. And I never in a million years was like, oh, okay, drug abuse, alcohol abuse. Like those weren't the things that was coming to my mind. I was
yeah,
like, okay, I was bracing myself for something on the other lines of sexual abuse or something like that.
yeah,
And it was like, no, we're going to deal with depression. We're going to deal with, you know what I'm saying? The suicide, dealing with survivor's remorse. And like, I
yeah,
was just like, man, they are. I was like,
yeah,
this is different. I was not expecting that.
yeah. So I'm trying, man. I'm trying to think. Okay, I guess maybe a good spot for me to start is kind of like a general thing of what is BoJack Horseman. So BoJack Horseman, pretty much. So you follow the main character, BoJack Horseman, who is a literal horse man, and he used to be, or he's a celebrity. He used to be on this TV show back in the day called Horsing Around, and that's kind of like the general premise and setup of a former big time TV show actor that pretty much has a lot of money, but he also has a lot of problems. Like Steve kind of touched on, he has a lot of. One of his biggest problems early on was for sure the alcohol use and abuse. But that's kind of like the general core of this show is following this former actor and just seeing how he goes from basically mistake to all these different people's lives that he encounters that most of them he ends up destroying in pretty horrible ways along the way up to where we get to things at the end. But like I said, I just want to just at least give that kind of general talk. Vash, why are you here? Go to mommy. Hold on, Steve.
I got them too.
Boy, I opened up my door, or he opened it. Look at he's holding a push pop.
Can I have this?
I think I wasn't. I think he was trying to get like the paper or whatever off. I couldn't even. I wasn't even paying attention to that part. I was just like, "Why are you here? what are you doing, dude?" So with Bojack, so like I said, that's kind of like a general rough idea of what the show is. So I don't even know like we're like to like really start off with this conversation, just because like I said, so much stuff happens to where like when I was kind of like going back through some of the episodes earlier today and just like jotting down some like key ones or whatever, there were honestly some plot points or just like some story parts whatever that I had like forgot just because I'm like because so much crazy stuff happens
It happens. Yeah.
that it's like oh man, that other crazy thing that was like 3 seasons ago,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess overall, on like a general overall view, like what were kind of like your overall thoughts of the show before we dive into like specifics and stuff.
So overall thoughts, I this has became like one of my favorite shows just because of it was not only it touched on all those things, but it still had the comedy in there and things like that. And it had some real concepts of how people, because you don't you so you see celebrities
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like they're happy, they're in these special places, but you never know what they're
Mm-hmm.
going through off camera.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just basically he was in a TV show, he was famous, and now he's dealing with the fact that he's not that guy anymore. He's
Yeah.
not on top of the world. He's kind of just a B-list actor, if that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And he's
Yeah.
trying to find his way up. He's trying to deal with that. He's coping with it through alcohol. And it was just like it was so much, you know what I'm saying, going into it just with like the personal parts of it, the personal aspects of it, because people go through this in real life. There are
Yeah.
people that are addicted to alcohol that, you know what I'm saying, that are, you know what I'm saying, going through depressions and anxiety and things of that nature, feeling like they just can't get right. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like feeling
Mm-hmm.
like everything that they touch is crumbling, things of
Yeah.
that nature. And it really hit home, well, not hit home, but it really was like big because like I was in the military. There's
Yeah.
so many people in the military that are going through that right
Mm-hmm.
now. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Going
Mm-hmm.
through alcoholism and, you know what I'm saying, feeling like even with the survivor's remorse of him and his friend that he started
Oh
with,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, just dealing with that, and then like the relationships that he built with some of the female characters on the show, and he basically fighting with himself on if I'm in love with her, I'm in love with her, I'm in love with,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Because in reality, he's not in love with them. He just wants to be loved.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so much, man. That show is deep,
Yeah.
real deep.
Yeah. I'm kind of right along there with you on that, man. Cause yeah, by the end of it, like you said, this is definitely a all time favorite of mine as far as like things that I've seen, things that I've experienced. Um, because it was definitely like multiple episodes that hit close to home with certain subjects. Because even like when they were kind of like getting to the parts of like the flashbacks, like his childhood, or just his family history in general, of like
Mm,
okay, okay, here are some of the things that early in his life led to him becoming the person who he is now along the way of like man, and that's true for a lot of people, a lot of us, is certain habits or lifestyles or whatever that we live through now, that some of those traits you can kind of trace back to parents, grandparents, that uncle, grandpa, whoever that you grew up
mm,
with, that you were around as a kid, that you just okay, you know your environment, you seeing certain things, certain types of habits or lifestyles, and sometimes that stuff you just subconsciously take that stuff on just because nobody is there to be like, no, don't do this, or honestly even to rein you in sometimes, because that's why sometimes it's good to have, whether it be your spouse or a sibling or a close friend, just somebody be like, yo, hey Steve, hey, bring it back. You kind of wilding a bit, man. We
yeah.
kind of like reel it back in, and he didn't really. Well, I'll say like he had some of those people along the way, but most of the
He was too
time,
far gone.
yeah, he was too far
Mm,
gone to the point to where he didn't want to listen and stuff, or he just wasn't taking what they were saying serious until reality kept slapping him in the face multiple times. Because like I feel like every season had something soul crushing that ended, because it felt like clockwork. Like every episode 11,
mm,
something super crazy happened, and then a little bit of the fallout with episode 12, and then we go into the new season. Then it happens again and again and again and again, and yeah, man.
It was a ride. It was a ride.
uh,
Um, what was it?
oh no, no, you're fine. You can go ahead before I touch on something specific.
It was just a ride. I guess we'll start season one.
Yeah.
Season one, like it's kind of crazy with season
Mm-hmm.
one
Mm-hmm.
because you don't really know what you're getting yourself into, and
Yeah.
they're setting the foundation
Yeah.
of who this character is, which is Bojack, and he's really you know what I'm saying, wild, and you know what I'm saying, he's doing drugs and he's drinking, and they kind of like make it like they're trying to set the tone of this is his normal
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
of this is who he is. So
Yeah.
you see him like doing all these different drugs and he's drinking. He they start to introduce other characters,
Yep.
and what's her name? I'm not great with names. The daughter that was
Oh,
once on the show.
yes. Sarah Lynn.
Sarah Lynn, yeah.
Yeah.
So Sarah Lynn is like the child star, and she
Yeah.
ends up having a pop career after the show or whatever.
Yeah.
So when they're reintroduced, it's like, oh, they just hanging out as friends and they're doing drugs together and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's like you're supposed to be a role model to her because you were her dad on the show,
Yeah.
but instead you're partying harder than she is in some situations. And they introduced those characters. They introduced the relationship between him and Princess Carolyn that they
Yeah.
used to date, and she's his agent, but they used to be in love and all this other stuff. You start to see Todd a little bit, Mr. Peanut Butter, who had literally a spinoff,
Yeah.
like literally stole his show. Like his show ended, and then Mr. Peanut Butter show has the exact same show.
Yeah.
So you get to see his jealousy with Mr. Peanut Butter of like, you pretty
Yeah.
much stole my thunder and you're still doing pretty well.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm kind of just in limbo here as a
Yep.
B-list actor. And then you get introduced to Diane, and
Yeah.
then Diane is doing the autobiography
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
him, and then that's when you start to dive into some of his past traumas and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and it gets the ball rolling. But like the first like 2 or 3 episodes, it's more so like party, party, party.
Yeah. 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 I'll kind of say like with Todd, like looking back at like how he was like, okay, he's just some dude that's just crashing on
On the
Bojack's
couch.
couch
Mhm.
to like his journey throughout, and then where he ends up. I would not have expected that from
The,
that guy that was introduced like, oh, this some dude that's just bumming on Bojack's couch
mhm.
to just seeing like, okay, like no, there is more to this guy, and I feel like that happens with a lot of these characters to where it's like, okay, there is so much more to Princess Carolyn, to Diane, to Mr. Peanut Butter,
Mhm.
and all these characters and stuff, and yeah, man.
Just you never think that the character development in this show is impeccable.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause you just never think that they're going to go to the character that you see in season 6.
Yeah.
Um, Even like you said with Todd, but with Diane,
Mm-hmm.
the things that she was going through. Shoot, her and Mr. Peanut Butter, you find out that they're engaged to be married and all this other stuff. The trip that they take from season 1 to season 6 is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. Yeah. That
yeah,
it man, it is just so wild how like there are basically like there's always multiple storylines going on in parallel
mm-hmm,
that kind of like with Bojack kind of like at the center of them,
mm-hmm,
but it's like yeah, it's like Diane has her whole arc of going from you know writing his autobiography to I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting somewhere in between there and here, but from there and then eventually her writing for that website Girl Crush.
Girl Cruise, yeah,
And
and just her realizing that she want to stay true to herself
Yeah,
and her writings, and it's really really good, like really done well. And then like to the point where she realizes, like I guess in the current season, season 6, the reason why she isn't enjoying writing is because she's not doing what she actually loves.
yeah,
And what she and Princess Carolyn is trying to like get her to go that direction. She's
yeah,
like, this story is bad that you're writing. And she was
yeah,
all like, I can't understand why. And then she's like, but I saw this detective
yeah,
story that you're writing, and it's amazing. And she was like, why don't you write this instead? And she's like, all the stuff that I've been through in my life, I'm writing this.
yeah,
And she's like, yeah, but it's not good. You don't
yeah,
actually care to write this. You want to write that. And just her even dealing with that, like that,
yeah.
just like back and forth with that was really dope.
Yes, it definitely was, and I'm glad that that Princess Carolyn is the type of character that she is, to where she
Mm.
will be blunt and she will be like, no, that thing you trying to do is trash.
Yeah, she told him straight up,
Yeah,
oh, like this is trash. It's
yeah, and
not good.
she's like, hey, basically like Princess Carolyn is definitely like the type of person that tells you what you want, and what you need, basically, regardless of, if like you said, like Diane couldn't see that for herself, but Princess Carolyn basically was like, no, like when I look at your writing, it's very clear, like what you actually want out
Want
of
to
these
do.
two things you're writing. It's like yes, it's like verbally you're saying you want to do your own autobiography or whatever, but your writing says otherwise. Your writing says, hey, you're passionate about this detective story thing. And
Mhm.
so yeah, that was super
So,
dope.
so who is your favorite character in
Hmm.
BoJack?
Trying to think. Honestly, I think maybe Princess Carolyn in a
Hmm.
way. I don't know. I think it was a mix between, you know just seeing her journey career wise, as well as, when we started kind of getting those flashbacks to her childhood and her upbringing and stuff, and like, one of the episodes that I liked or enjoyed was the one where we got to see her flashback of her growing up with her mom and stuff,
Hmm.
and that one, kind of hit me in a way, just because of the whole thing of, all of her siblings, had grown up, moved on, left the house or whatever. So she was kind of like there taking care of her mom, and in some way she kind of felt obligated to take care of her mother,
Hmm.
and stuff. Versus, it's like, hey, like there's a bunch of us brothers and sisters, but I'm the only one that's actually doing something. And that whole moment where, she got pregnant and ended up losing the baby, and then like
Hmm.
then like her mom got mad at her of like, hey, you ruined our ticket, basically to the good life or whatever, because the guy that got her pregnant was from a wealthy family. So it was like that whole thing. And then when it kind of transitioned to when it got to her finally getting accepted into college, and how the offer letter came, but her mom hid it for a while before
Hmm.
before she gave it to her. And just that whole moment of, when her mom was trying to convince her to stay at least like one more semester or one or whatever, of like, well, you don't have to go right now, like, why don't you stay just a little bit longer. That you know that definitely
It's
hit. Yeah, because a
yeah.
lot of times, people will do that to each other, to their family, their kids, or whatever. Of like,
Hmm.
okay, I know you're trying to get out, you're trying to, do better things for yourself, but oh, I need you here, and basically
For
trying
my
trying trying to,
own
yeah,
selfish reasons.
yeah, trying
Yeah.
trying trying to guilt trip a person, especially when somebody like Princess Carolyn, that is very kind-hearted and kind-natured, to
Hmm.
where, as we see, like with her with Bojack over all these seasons, of like, she is always there, she always has his
Hmm.
back, which I know I know we'll for sure talk about it towards like when we get to like stuff at the final season, but like the way that she was there, like hey, she was ride or die to the very freaking end with that
Facts.
stuff. But we'll touch on that in a second. but
Even like
yeah,
finding out that that necklace wasn't that really
yeah,
was like crazy. Like her mom had been lying to her, telling that it's been passed down from generation to generation.
yeah,
And you find out it's a J.C. Penney necklace. I was like, yo, that's absolutely crazy, man. And she was like taking pride in it. And she was at a point where she was like, I really need this money, you know what I'm saying, so I
yeah,
can get this stuff done. And then she tries to sell it and to the pawn shop, and they're like, "Oh, this is a J.C. Penney necklace.
yeah,
It's not worth anything." And it was like, man, that's gotta be defeating. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, yeah. That definitely was because yeah, that's just one of those things of life. Like you grow up being told one thing, or you having this certain perception of something, and then somebody that's like an outside person from the situation gives input and is like, no, no, like you said, like nah,
mhm,
it's just a
mhm.
regular necklace, or there's nothing special about this, or whatever. And so yeah, like sometimes getting those like harsh reality checks can be brutal, because
Man.
yeah, it's like kind of just like having your perception of reality broken, especially like at their age, because they're what, like 40s
40s,
and
yeah,
stuff.
40s, 50s almost.
Yeah, because I know because Bojack was for sure 50, for sure about 50 something by the time the series ended.
Mhm.
um but yeah, so yeah, that was definitely devastating.
Yeah. Um, so when they keep diving in on season one,
Hmm.
and Diane starts diving in, and then you start to find out about Charlie,
Hmm.
who is one of Bojack's friends, one of his best friends, who he started horsing around with, is the writer on Horsing Around,
Hmm.
things like that. And this the show was what in the 90s
Yeah,
or whatever, and you find out that Charlie ends up he's gay,
yeah,
and he's been hiding it, and it's not acceptable, or that as accepted
yeah, back
back
then.
then as it is now.
Hmm.
So he's starting to get bad press and all this other stuff. And Charlie just asked Bojack, he says, "Look, just have my back. Just what I'm saying. They're trying to
Yeah,
cut me from the network. Have my back. Stick beside me."
yeah.
And he was all like, "You're the lead of this show.
Hmm.
So if you still sticking beside me, they have no choice."
Yeah,
And he kind of tells Bojack that. And Bojack is like, "Nope, I'm sticking beside Charlie." And then the network editor pretty much tells him, she was like, "This decision's already been made. We're just
yeah,
coming to you as a common courtesy,
yeah,
but he's cut. Like we're cut. We're what I'm saying, he's fired."
yeah.
So he's like, she's like, "You just need to accept it."
Hmm.
So then Bojack is like all upset. He's like, "Well, if he quits, what I'm saying, if he's fired, then I'm leaving too." And she's like, "No, you're not. You got a contract." And she kind of like, talks him into like just accepting the fact that Charlie is being fired.
Yep.
Charlie gets fired. Go to current day. Now Charlie has cancer. They haven't
Yeah.
talked in years, and he has cancer. And it's all that guilt that Bojack feels because it's like his life. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
His life was over after that. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Nobody else will pick him up. All
Hmm.
this other stuff. His life never got back on track.
Yeah.
Now he's got cancer and he's dying. But that's the survivor's remorse that Bojack ends up having
Yeah.
in well, one of the situations with survivor's remorse.
Hmm.
And you remember as the story develops,
Yeah.
and you get to season 5, or is it 6?
6.
It's yeah, it's one of the seasons.
You talking about with the with the lady coming back?
Yeah. So
That
the
that that
producer comes
that
back.
that was season 6. That was like one of like close like to like the tail end of the season.
Oh man, when that reveal happens,
Hmm.
that Bojack always had a choice.
Yep.
And she had to sway him. So all she did was just pretend like he never had a choice, and that the decision had already been made to get him to be on board with it.
Yeah.
And that was like mind blowing. I was like, Bojack, you gotta kill her. I was like, you
I thought,
gotta.
I was a bit afraid of what would happen because so I just looked and so the final season, so season 6 has 16 episodes. That was episode 14. So
Yeah.
like 2 episodes from the finale from the finale of the series, they
Mhm.
dropped that bombshell of like nah, you always had a choice, BoJack, and she pretty much just bluffed her way through it, and ugh,
He lost his best friend. He never had a great relationship with his friend, which was the start of his alcoholism in the first place. It's just
yeah,
like, well, not the start, but it played
yeah,
a huge part in it.
yeah,
And it's just like, yo, like that was so crazy to me, like finding that out. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. I couldn't believe it.
yeah,
I was like, this is crazy that this was what was going on the entire time, and he had an opportunity to still have his friend,
mm,
um, and you know what I'm saying, like even stand on it. Like it was so crazy. And
yeah,
then like now his friend has passed with cancer and stuff like that, and he doesn't even have a way to make things right at
yeah,
all. It's completely over.
yeah,
I just was like, man, that was one of the craziest things.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that 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 was basically like truly set the tone for it's like okay, this is what we're dealing with in season 1, and it especially for me and you, as you know, as people that came to it after the series is already over, so we already know okay, there's 5 more seasons of this, and this is how season 1 is. Versus I would be curious, like to like hear somebody's thoughts that watched it as he was coming out, of like experiencing that, and then kind of like in hindsight, this kind of sounds bad to say, but it's like that was like one of like the on the lower end of the bad things BoJack did.
Yeah, it was that was like scratching the surface of like, yeah, like this is
Yeah,
what this show is about,
yeah,
and you're about to see exactly what we about to get into. It 'cause, like a friend dying of cancer
mm-hmm,
that you never got to rekindle a friendship with.
mm-hmm,
I mean, like you said, it's like that happens, and it's not. Even though it's a big deal, it's not as crazy as you
yeah,
would think. Like in a sense, because it happens. And you're just like, all right, that's just one scenario that's, you know what I'm saying, okay, this show is actually more interesting
yeah,
than what I was giving it credit for. That's
yeah,
that, like once I saw that part, I was like, okay, this is more interesting than what I was going to give it credit for. And even then, you still have no idea what you got to get into. You have
yeah,
no idea what you're getting into.
exactly. And you know, and with that kind of honestly, you know, that kind of, you know, rolled it right into with season 2, as we
Mhm.
kind of that season 2, I guess I would say that's kind of like where we got like really deep, or started, I guess, like started touching the surface a little bit of the Sarah Lynn stuff, even though that was like super heavy in season 3, but this was
Mhm.
kind of like where it started kind of coming up
Mhm.
a little bit more, because of, you know, with with Charlie passing and stuff, the cast kind of came back together and got around each other for the first time in years, and that was
Mhm.
kind of like how, or kind of like a point where Bojack and Sarah Lynn kind of started reconnecting a little bit because of what happened with Charlie.
Yeah, and so with them kind of getting together, you start to see that Sarah Lynn was kind of the outcast of the kids that were growing up and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of seen why, like, even though they didn't say it, like she was like, oh well, I ended up having a nicer career than you guys,
Yeah.
and so I didn't really need y'all. Kind of, she had that mindset.
Yeah.
But then later on, you find out that, like you said in season 3, when we got deeper into Sarah Lynn, she's like, she has this situation. She has a conversation with Bojack when Bojack comes to see her. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
"It's so nice to see you, somebody that just wants to talk to me and doesn't need anything from me."
Yeah.
So she played it tough, like. oh yeah, I was better than y'all. I ended up being a better character, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, a better person, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. And then you come to find out, you know what I'm saying? She actually was kind of like going through it herself
Yeah.
and not being able to have anyone to talk to because she always felt like someone needed something from her. Someone had something to gain by having a conversation with her and stuff like that.
And you saying that like it just made her hurt even more. Like you said, like she feels she was like, oh, Bojack, you're coming because you want to be around me, but then the
He had a
script,
script. Oh
and
man.
then it was like,
And
all right, add it to the pile,
um
and
other
yeah,
thing. And then so let's go into the whole we really, I guess, instead of going by seasons, we should go by characters. I
we
think it would be
could,
better to
we
dive
could,
into
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
because
that's fine,
like so she's like a big druggie and doing
yeah,
drugs and things, and then their way of coping with the passing of Charlie and stuff, them doing the drugs, and then I guess one thing led to another, and her and Bojack ended up sleeping together.
yeah,
So now it's super weird because it's like you're supposed to be my father figure from a
yeah,
TV standpoint, and I'm your daughter, and we're sleeping together, or
yeah,
we've slept together a few times and stuff
yeah,
like that. So then, you know what I'm saying, that she has these situations where she is alone and she's like kind of away from the scene for a little bit,
yeah,
and then he gets this script and all this other stuff and the flashbacks and stuff like that. This, I guess, the script thing was a flashback,
mm-hmm.
and it was kind of like her wild ride into the drug addiction and thing
Yeah,
like that. And
yeah,
then after they do that, they have that situation, and then they end up doing drugs. And he kind of like she starts to overdose, right?
yeah,
And instead of pretty much instead of getting her help immediately, he kind of like stalls because of his, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying, of his stardom. He kind
yeah,
of is more so worried about his celebrity
yeah,
rather than getting her help. And
yeah,
that's what the super problem is now, because like had he took care of her immediately, she could have been saved possibly.
yeah. That was definitely like a very tough like watching it when it happened at that moment was tough enough, but then when things kind of like started blowing back up towards the end of the series, and then they was talking about the whole thing of, of like, well, well, you called basically, he called himself from her phone and then
Mm-hmm.
waited like 17 minutes or whatever time frame it was
Mm-hmm.
to go back in and then call the ambulance and all that stuff, and then
To
like,
make it seem like it took him time to get
yeah,
to her because she was calling for an emergency.
yeah,
And
yeah,
oh,
that that
man.
that whole thing was just super tough, and it's especially when they revealed that she didn't die on the spot, she died at the hospital. So it was once
Mm-hmm.
again like, hey, if you would have just called at that moment, she might still be
Have
here.
survived and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And then so that episode ends where he takes her to the hospital.
yeah,
So the next episode that starts is the flashback, and it shows like, hey, it's so good to see you, that somebody that actually wants to talk to me just because,
yeah,
not because they need something. And then he shows the script, and she
yeah,
was like, oh, you did need something. Okay, well, just put it over there. So
yeah,
the flashback ends, and then the news thing pops up. Sarah Lynn has died of an over, and
mm-hmm,
it's like, wow, like crazy.
yeah,
And then so this is the second person that's died in his life,
yeah,
and that's the survivor remorse, where it's like starting to spin out of control because it's like I'm alive and these two people have died because of me, in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Things that's
yeah.
going on.
And so, cause I went back and I looked at a little bit of this, like the ending of the episode after that. It was episode 12 of season 3, to where basically where he's kind of like driving across the countryside,
Mhm.
and he basically takes his hands off the steering wheel and just closes his eyes. Basically, he's just done. Like, you know what,
Well, yeah.
it's time for me to go. And then he hears something and he comes to whatever, and he stops, and then he looks over across this field, and it's all of these horse guys just running together and just as a
Free.
unit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like, I guess just it was just like symbolic of him to see and kind of like, okay, let's try this, or let's try to keep on living or whatever, because he was definitely about to end it all uh, at that
Right then.
moment.
And it was a good parallel of the horses are just running and they're just like free.
Yeah,
And I think I like the way that they do that with all of the animalistic characters.
yeah,
They have these moments where they have their animal instincts kind of shown. It's like, man, I'm like in a suit, I'm on TV and all this other stuff, and these horses are just free on a on a farm,
yeah,
mentally or whatever, and they're just free. They're just doing them. They're free and all this other stuff. Because there's other times with Mr. Peanut Butter where they have a ball and they'll throw it, and Mr. Peanut Butter all of a sudden kind of like chases it for no reason. He's like, I don't know why I just did that, but it's because he's a dog. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? So I love that
yeah,
animalistic like aspect that they do, where they somehow they just have these moments where they just can't help themselves
yeah,
and they do their animal things or whatever.
yeah,
Um, so what is it? So after the drive,
yeah,
he doesn't he have the moment where he thinks about the deer. Uh, what's her
yeah.
name?
What was it, Charlotte?
Yeah, Charlotte.
Yeah.
So he has the moment. So now he's like, he remembers there was a moment where Charlotte was dating Charlie, and Charlotte was like, "Yeah, I don't think Charlie likes me like that," but she was
Mm-hmm.
really pretty much trying to infer to him
Yeah,
that yeah, Charlie's gay, and you know what I'm saying, what we're
yeah,
doing is not working because of the fact that he's gay.
yeah,
And then she kind of shows interest in Bojack, and Bojack doesn't pull the plug, you know what I'm saying, because of the fact that Charlie's his friend.
yeah,
So now Charlie's passed away. So he goes and finds her, finds out that she's married and has a daughter.
yeah,
And I mean, because it's been 20 some years. So,
yeah, yeah,
uh, and he basically is like trying to pretty much force himself into her life, like trying to be her friend and
yeah,
things like that. And they're talking and stuff. And he ends up basically expressing the fact that he still has feelings for her.
yeah,
So he expressed the fact that he still has feelings for her, and she's like, "I'm married." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a time where it feels like she's a little weak and she thinks about it,
yeah,
but for the most part, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? I'm married.
yeah.
Like, and she's like, um, and then start to see this little her daughter, which is a 17-year-old girl, start
Mm-hmm.
to have this like, you could tell she has interest in Bojack, but you don't think it's of that nature
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
yet.
yeah,
They end up going to prom together, which is weird
yep,
within itself. They
yep,
go to prom together. Bojack is like being a chaperone for the most part. He's telling her, "Hey, you're cool. Forget these kids. Like, there's life after
yeah,
high school." He's pretty much building her up. Like, there's life after high school. Don't
yeah,
worry about it.
yeah,
And then somehow she takes it the other way and thinks like, "Oh, he likes me."
yeah,
And she makes moves at Bojack, and Bojack's like, "No." You know what I'm saying? Pretty much like we can't do whatever you
yeah,
thinking that you're gonna do. So then Bojack goes to the mom and he makes a move on her, and she's like, You need to go.
yeah,
Like she kind of like, you need to go, like, you know what I'm saying? He's like, well, just give me one more. I'll spend the night and then I'll leave in the morning.
yep,
He goes back to his room and
mm-hmm.
the daughter's there and like, let's do this.
Yep,
And they have a little flash moment, and then the mom Charlotte is feeling bad about how she kind of like told him he got to get out, so she wanted to like have a conversation with him.
yep,
She goes to the room and sees him in there with her daughter,
mm-hmm.
and is like, get out now, like
Yeah,
there ain't no wait till tomorrow, you got to
yeah,
go now.
yeah,
And it's just, he's pretty much just at a point where he's just low at this point. He's lost two friends, he's depressed, he's alcohol abuse and things like that.
yeah,
He's at a point where he just wanted to be loved by Charlotte, and then
mm-hmm.
he's at a point where he's like, "Oh, I'll just take what I can get
Yep,
with this." You know what I'm saying? And almost, because I think they caught him before the act, so it didn't happen.
yeah,
But it's like close enough. You were,
yeah,
yeah, you know what I'm saying,
and
there.
and that question comes up a couple times throughout the series, pretty much up until the end, of even like multiple times of like, of because he even asked himself one time of like if Charlotte didn't show up, would I
Would
have
I
done
have
it?
done?
Type of thing.
Mhm.
And then so that whole situation with Charlotte and her daughter, that pretty much once again just continuing Bojack's just journey of destruction to where
Mhm.
not only does he basically f up this young lady's mind because it's like okay, she's at an age super impressionable, like on the verge of like going like transitioning to adulthood, and
Mhm.
then she has this experience, and along with so that experience along with the prom night, um I'm trying to remember, was this at prom or was this when he came across the, no, it was at prom where he ended up getting some of them to drink. The black guy that was with them, his girlfriend got I think like alcohol poisoning or whatever, and they had to take her to the hospital.
Mhm.
And pretty much, he just dumped them off of like, hey,
Dumped her. Mhm.
don't say that I was here or whatever. I'm just gonna drop
Mhm.
you off and leave. Hey, she'll be fine, and all that stuff, and how how that comes back around.
Full circle.
Yeah, in the end as well, to where like later on, that same guy meets Hollyhock, Bojack's sister, whatever, half sister, whatever, and how it's like okay, just like the ghosts of the past keep
Keep
coming
coming.
back.
Yeah, what's
So
done in the dark will come to the light. My mom used to say
yeah,
that. And it's every time it's coming back. Like um so even like later on in the show, because he ends up somehow going to the college
yeah,
where she's at, and he's like, I can't be here. Like he's kind of
mm-hmm,
like, I can't be here. He's like, I don't. He's and then like in a sense he had been watching her for a while. He's like, she seems happy.
yeah,
Like I can like kind of have like this closure with her. Like that's what he was intending on doing. But
mm-hmm,
he gets there and like he's watching her and he's like, no, I'm not gonna speak because like it'll bring up some trauma to her,
yeah,
possibly, and I just don't want to bring that into her life. And then he turns around and then like one of the students go, hey, aren't you Bojack Horseman? And then like all these fans start to crowd around him and it's all this
yeah,
stuff. And then the girl notices that he's here and she's like, you're at my school. And then she starts to have all this anxiety of
yeah,
like, why are you here? Like, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And man, this is a really heavy show.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and that stuff like that just kind of just goes to show of like sometimes you just never know like what lasting imprint or impression you'll leave on a person,
mhm,
regardless, whatever type of interaction or whatever you have with somebody. It's like okay, something that one person might think, oh, that was nothing. This other person is carrying it with them for years and years and years, and it's caused them to have either trust issues in other people or whatever the case may be. So yeah, that stuff just
was deep.
haunting. And then even in the final season when those reporters ended up coming and digging up stuff or whatever, they was calling the mom. They went and
Mhm.
found the daughter at her job and stuff, and
She didn't
it,
want to be
yeah,
found, and it was just yeah,
yeah,
it was just, and it's like, dude, like I just want to be left alone. But reporters, TMZ or whatever, they don't care. They need to get their story, and
yeah,
that's kind of how they were. Like they
yeah,
didn't care the fact that they were bringing up past trauma. They didn't care about things like that. They just cared about getting the scoop on their
yeah,
story, and that's another problem within itself. You know what I'm
mm-hmm,
saying? Like,
mm-hmm.
um, and then so what else happens?
Let's talk about Princess Carolyn.
Oh man,
Sh-
so
yeah,
Princess Carolyn apparently is super stressed as her job as a as she gets clients and things like that. I can't dang, was she
shoot,
dang, she's the manager
yeah,
uh what's the word for it? I'm having a brain fart.
yeah, cause
Uh,
cause
Agent. She's an agent.
yes, yes,
Yeah, so she's an agent, and she's Bojack's agent. They've fallen in love a few times, broken up. Like it seems like they've been dealing with each other for about years.
yeah,
And she basically is at the point where she's like, all right, I like from what I can see from the show, she loves Bojack
yeah,
and she'll do anything for him.
yeah,
But to a point where it's at a fault where she's not doing everything in her best interest
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
And so basically, some of the times where Bojack is like, "I want to be with you," and then he turns around and they fall in love or they starting to get heavy again, and then all of a sudden Bojack pushes her away,
yep,
which
yeah,
was something that I never understood about Bojack's character because the
mm-hmm,
main thing about Bojack from what it seemed like, was that he wanted to be loved.
yeah.
So every time he pushed her away, I couldn't understand that, but that could be a deeper root of things.
Yeah, I think that might also kind of just tie into like his upbringing and stuff, and just like what he experienced like with his mother,
Mm-hmm.
and that relationship and stuff, whatever, of just not letting people get too close and stuff, and especially as the seasons went on, I think, and he kind of became more aware of his destructive tendencies of just him, not wanting to get people fully wrapped up in it, or fully pulled into it, the full way and stuff. So, but yeah, yeah, Princess Carolyn, yeah, she, like you said, she started transitioning from like, okay, starting to try to make moves for herself, and the little like mini arc where she was falling for these two kids in the trench coat, or three kids. I don't remember how many kids it was.
That was hilarious. That was hilarious.
Yeah, just like I'm like okay, like she is so desperate for love that she is blind to how obvious this is.
Look like the little rascals
Yes.
standing on each other. And then the that's on one of my favorite episodes, which
Yeah.
is the episode where she goes to his house and he's pretending to be a kid and his dad at the same
Yeah.
time. That
Let,
was hilarious.
let me go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
Oh, where
yeah.
did so and so go? Oh, he's in the kitchen. Oh, he had to step out. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite episodes. But continue.
Yeah, no, you could but yeah, yeah, kind of just transitioning from her being with him to I think probably like her most meaningful relationship, besides like where she ends up at the end, was with the shoot, what was his name? Stewart, I think. The
Yeah,
mouse.
Stewart. The
Yeah.
mouse. Yeah.
To where like her I really liked their relationship because they were just like like a really good fit for each other,
Yeah, they seem
and
perfect.
just the natural way of just like the whole thing, like them being a cat and a mouse, was just like a funny joke to just to kind of make it
Oh,
even that much better of how everything was. but but yeah, like that whole thing, and then like when she started going on the journey of, I'm trying to commit because with her, she because with Princess Carolyn, she had both the journey of her career side of things as well as her personal life side of things. And so it's like okay, on the career side, she's making the move from no longer working with other people to starting her own job and her own thing,
mm,
to with the personal life of like, okay, I want to actually start to build and have a family. And just when she started going on that whole journey of, well, before the adoption thing, like her and Stewart trying multiple
mm,
times, and just unfortunately not being able to successfully have a kid, and the traumas and stuff that come with that,
of
of, yeah,
multiple miscarriages and
hmm,
just not being able to successfully make it happen. It's
yeah,
just that's tough within itself. And the one thing that I thought was really tough was that her dealing with it, her way of dealing with it was just like, I'm gonna drop Stewart too. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? She broke up with Stewart. Stewart was like, we can get through this together. And she
yeah,
was like, no, you get out. Like she was so angry
yeah,
that she dropped him, and he was like, it was more so, it was
uh,
Stewart was like, well, we don't have to keep trying and making you go through these
yeah,
traumatic moments. We can try to adopt. We can try to do other things. Like he said, there's other options.
yeah,
And she was so angry with the fact that he even brought up adoption and stuff like that.
yeah,
And she was just like you saying that I can't do this? Like it was a lot, and it was like I think that they could have revisited that relationship,
hmm
but I can understand like why they did. You know.
yeah, yeah. It was definitely a thing of she feeling ashamed
Mm-hmm.
of like because she is somebody that kind of takes very deep pride in what she do and being very successful at what she does, and this was something, her being able to have a child of her own
Mm-hmm.
was just something that that she saw as a failure of herself, of like, okay, this is, I've been able to be successful in my job, my career, life, and whatever, but this one thing that I really want, I can't have it the way I
Mm-hmm.
want it to go. And around this time was kind of like when we had her flashback stuff with her mother, and that's when we found out that she had the miscarriage and stuff when she was
Mm-hmm.
in school and stuff, whatever. So it was like okay, like this is some, once again, some deep rooted trauma that goes back to her youth and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I was so happy, you know, when, well, before I get to where she ended up, but then after that it was like her journey through adoption, of her racing around to all these different places, all these people, meeting them and stuff, whatever, trying to get a baby, they're falling through, people pulling out, changing their mind, and all that stuff, to the point to where she's finally able to adopt that cute little porcupine baby. And but once again, her still feeling a certain type of way of, she's still so anxious in a way of being afraid of failing, that she goes on like weeks, if not months, without even naming the
The
baby.
baby. Mm-hmm.
just untitled Princess Carolyn project. And I liked how that stuff just kind of like spun off into its own thing, of Todd misinterpreting that getting turned into, or people wanting to pick it up as a potential TV show. And
Mm.
yeah,
That's
that
crazy.
yeah,
I enjoyed the Princess Carolyn episode where there's like all these different after images of her,
yes,
like it's showing how much she has to do because she's doing it all alone.
yeah,
And she's like trying to juggle a baby, juggling agents and writings and
yeah,
all sorts of stuff. I really appreciated that episode a lot because it shows how much you really have to do, especially with the child. Like people don't understand. Like a lot of times there are a lot of people that think like, what I'm saying, having a baby is hard work. And I guess it was showing like the time consuming and the hard work that it takes of having a baby.
yeah. and and
Um,
and, and that that's also why it was one of my favorite episodes as well. Because yeah, like you said, like with us being parents and stuff as well, um, of just knowing like this is this is real deal.
yeah.
Just like it feels like even though you might physically only be doing one thing, mentally you're doing a million things, because like it's like, okay, all right, I'm feeding the baby right now. All right, what do I need to do for work? What do I need to do for dinner? Oh, I need to go clean this, do that, or whatever. And I really just enjoyed just like how they did the effects of that, and that is something that I enjoyed with the show overall, was just them not being afraid to toy around with how stuff looked, like doing different art styles
Mhm.
and all different types of crazy interpretations of stuff because it kind of helped get a lot of different points and themes and stuff across really well. Was like, okay, you know what? Let's change up how this thing looks, or where this or where the story's taking place and stuff. So yeah, really
Mhm.
cool stuff.
And later on in that episode, Stewart, she just so happens to run into Stewart, and Stewart finds out that she did adopt, and he's like, "Well, wait a minute. The whole reason why we broke up was because I brought up adoption, and you got so angry with me."
Hmm.
And you know what I'm saying? And he wanted to know like, "Yo, what's up with that?" Like, and
Yeah.
then he tries to come back into her life a little bit,
Hmm.
and then he starts treating the daughter, you know what I'm saying, like well and stuff like that. And then like he says something, and then Princess Carolyn like, "You're not her father," like, and it's
Yeah.
just like, wow, you know what I'm saying? Like in his
Yeah.
head, he's like, wow, like I know that, but it's like this is how it should have been. Like it kind
Yeah.
of it was a very tough moment. You know what I'm saying? Just because of from
Oh
his
yeah.
perspective, I think not from Princess Carolyn's perspective as well, but seeing it from his perspective, it's like, yo, what did I do? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh
what did I
yeah.
do wrong?
Uh,
And it's so crazy, so many layers to break apart from Princess Carolyn's whole character.
Yeah, because cause stuff like that, I feel like everybody at some point has kind of been through a what if
Mm,
moment of, either, regardless of whatever it might have been, whether it's a past relationship or whatever, of, you had these thoughts, these dreams of like, man, me and this person, we're gonna get married, we're gonna have kids, and yada yada yada, and whatever reason y'all split up, y'all go y'all separate ways, and then you happen to run into that person years later, or you see on Facebook they stuff whatever, and sometimes it's like, like if you're still single or whatever, but then it's like,
mm,
oh, she's married now, or maybe not even married, but oh, she's got two kids and stuff now, like man,
mhm.
that no, that's supposed to be us or whatever. And so yeah,
Yeah,
it's yeah.
seeing it is just like just you because that's what social media does is showing you these flashbacks of something from you know what I'm saying that you don't really some people don't want to see that stuff
Yeah.
because it brings up old trauma, but for some reason Facebook just on this day in 2009 you were with Jasmine so and so,
Yeah.
and you know what I'm saying, and then come to
Oh
find
yeah.
out like you know what I'm saying Jasmine used to punch you or something behind the
Yeah.
clothes, you know what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
like you're bringing this up like it's crazy.
Yeah. And then so with Princess Carolyn, I I was so happy when Jonah got brought back in during the whole episode where they were kind of like negotiating with the assistants going on a strike or whatever. That that whole part was so funny, and it's so funny that BoJack was kind of the catalyst for all that kicking off. Which I didn't think about it until now, but I guess in a way, if BoJack didn't say that to that assistant, then Jonah probably would have never came back, and then him and Princess Carolyn would not have gotten married at the end, probably because they reconnected because BoJack basically gave that assistant the fire
Mhm.
to or ignited the flame within her to stand up for herself, to rally the troops, so to speak, and then Jonah coming back and stuff, and that dude is just, he's so cool, he's so awesome,
Yeah.
and so supportive of Princess Carolyn, to the fact of like the episode where he was supposed to be playing at a show with his band, and she was working late in the office, and so she was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to Jonah's show, and she gets there, and they're like, oh, he went back to the office, and
To
that's
go
kind of
find you.
yeah,
Mhm.
and so that was kind of that was just like a really sweet moment of like okay, like he really does care, and especially when he plays that song for her, and
Mhm.
he actually said like I love you, Princess Carolyn, and stuff, and yeah, just that that's definitely like a happy ending. I'm glad to see for Princess Carolyn of like okay, she was able to find things didn't go how she pictured it originally, but she has this beautiful little girl, and she has a super supportive husband now that
Mhm.
she know like this guy supported me through all these years of working together, that she knows he's gonna do the same thing as a husband slash father. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I enjoyed Judah. I enjoyed Judah, and I enjoy the character that plays him. It's his name. I know the dude, but I can't remember. But he was on like the Drew Carey show,
yeah,
and he's on Two and a Half Men on a couple episodes. I can't remember. Let me
yeah.
look it up. Diedrich Bader.
Okay,
He's um he's on like a whole bunch of different like shows and stuff like that. He's on American Housewife. He's on a couple of shows. He's a really funny dude. I
yeah,
like him.
yeah,
But I never knew his name. But he's really funny. And him just like it was dope. Like just seeing like Princess Carolyn's whole like she went through hell pretty
yeah,
much. You know what I'm saying to get to where she was.
yeah.
Um, I guess who else can we dive into? We can dive into really Bojack's character as far as like afterwards where we meet
Yeah.
his daughter slash
Sister.
sister. That one was it was mind blowing too because like you through the whole time you were thinking, oh, you know what I'm saying, he's got a daughter out there,
Yeah.
and we were trying to figure out, you know what I'm saying, who he was trying to figure out who he had messed around with and all these crazy things. And he met one of the super fans, and she was like, "Yes, yes, I was pregnant at this time." And then you go and you look at a picture, and you find out that she was never pregnant. She's just a crazy super fan still,
Yeah.
and she's saying anything. And come to find out that Bojack's father had an affair,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave the baby up for an adoption.
Mm-hmm.
And that baby just so happens to think that she's Bojack's daughter,
Yeah.
and come to find out she's actually Bojack's sister.
Man, that that
What a
that
ride.
that whole sequence of events, man, was a true roller coaster because, man, yeah, just like the whole thing of just basically like somebody showing up and being like, "Hey, you're my dad," type of thing. Like you know, I in the past I have had that fear of like, cause
Hoping that's not gonna happen.
yeah, cause I'm like, cause some you think like I'm pretty sure I've been pretty safe over the years, but still you just never know. And so that like seeing that just kind of made me think about like that stuff or whatever, like of like, man, like how would I handle that situation if some teenager or young adult or whatever just showed up and is like, "Hey, Robert, you're my dad."
It's like what?
And so yeah, so it's like trying to piece all that stuff together. But yeah, and yeah, this was just like it was a double mixture of looking at like once again the trail of people Bojack has left in his wake of just like of like he is messed around so much that
He doesn't even know.
yeah, to where it wasn't even like oh maybe it was Susan or Keisha or Mary. It was like no, it's like this you have like 20 years worth of of stuff that you have to try to figure this out on top of us kind of starting to get even more insight into Bojack and his upbringing and stuff because I'm trying to remember. Let me see, because that was what season 4. Let me see.
Yeah, that was season 4
Yes,
because that's when
yeah,
I remember the episode because she kept on using chlorophyll on everybody and knocking them out and knocking them out
yes,
instead of just actually talking to problems and things like that.
yes, and so yeah. That season was when she kind of got brought in, and then like I said, like us kind of getting uh more insight into his background because this is the season where it had one of my favorite episodes it was episode 2 called the Old Sugarman Place, and this is where kind of like after everything that happened with I'm pretty sure that was after Sarah Lynn died and he just basically just disappeared for some months, and he basically went back to the old family home that his grandparents had, from his mother's childhood and stuff. And so he went back there, and we're getting flashbacks to his mom's childhood, and we starting to kind of see those early signs of like okay, the reason why his mother was like this to him was because of how his mother was brought up and raised, and just kind of it building from there to, like you said, like eventually, we get that revelation a little bit later that like, no, okay, this is the sister because the dad was doing stuff. And so because that tied into when his mother came back into the picture as well, that kind of started tying in as well, or that piece of the puzzle started getting linked in, because she was drugging Hollyhock, but also the mother kind of basically just like she's not fully within her right mind, because she's getting up in age and she's having some problems of her own, and then Alzheimer's, and then when she kept on saying this name Henrietta, like, oh, Henrietta, she kept on calling Bojack Henrietta. And that's one thing I like about the show. It's like they plant the seeds subtly sometimes of like, okay, like this character keeps on doing this thing or keeps on saying this thing, and you're like, okay, it's kind of weird, but whatever. And then it's like, no, that's the name of their basically their maid when she was married, and that's who her husband, Bojack's dad, had the affair with, and that's who is Hollyhock's mom, because that moment where the mom has the flashback where she's driving in the car and Henrietta is driving or whatever, like just like the squiggly lines blurring out her face, that was that was something.
That was a dope moment, and it was a hilarious moment at the same time because of some of the dialogue that she was saying. When he kept on saying, "I'm not Henrietta, I'm your son," and she was like, "My son is a ball of gas," and it was like, at first, the first time I watched it, it didn't catch, and then I watched it again. I was like, "She's talking about the sun, like the sun in the sky," and he kept on saying, "I'm your son." And she's like, "You ain't my son. My son's a ball of gas." And so she's saying these like funny things, but then at the same time, you're having that realization, what she's actually seeing and what she's thinking, and she keeps thinking about this maid and the fact that this maid had an affair with her husband and went on to have a love child, and things like that. So it was like a double whammy.
Yeah. And then, with Hollyhock, it was like like throughout all this, her and Bojack do start to form a genuine bond and relationship and stuff, but that kind of got ruined when it's discovered that his mom has been basically kind of like drugging her secretly in order to, she says it's to help her lose the weight, but she went overboard doing it. And so now Hollyhock has another trauma, aside from thinking like, she's going on all these adventures with this guy that she's thinking is her dad, and they kind of find out, oh, okay, no, you're my brother. And then my well, actually no, she wouldn't be a stepmom, I guess, or
I guess that's the best way to note.
Of this other lady's drugging me, and now she's paranoid that she's gonna be basically like spiral down a path of addiction and stuff, and then that kind of causes her to end up leaving and going her own way and stuff for a while, and that kind of blew up with when she kind of had that slight overdose, and all the dads show up and all that stuff, which that was kind of funny, like her having like 8 dads or whatever it was.
They're in a poly open relationship.
And so then things going from there with her, and then her and Bojack kind of reconnecting a bit, like once he goes on to become a professor at the school or at the college that she happens to be going to. And then, she going to that party, finding out about, what Bojack did with the girl in New Mexico and stuff. And then basically her disappearing more or less because that's the last time we really heard from her was she started like distancing herself from Bojack a little bit more and more, and then especially like once the news articles and everything came out, she wrote him that letter that he took forever to open because he was so afraid of what it would say, and then eventually it was just like he tries to leave another voicemail. The number's been changed or whatever finally, so he can't even try to do that. And then he reads the letter, whatever's in the letter traumatizes him so much to where then he goes on another bender, pretty much almost killing himself. And yeah, that's kind of like where things kind of leave off with Hollyhock. It's just kind of ambiguous in a way,
And like Hollyhock was like super paranoid because she knew that Bojack was doing drugs and stuff like that as well. So every time she did anything, she was paranoid of the fact that she had already had this overdose, like you said.
Yeah.
And she's like, man, what's in this? What's in this? Like she was super paranoid. It's just so much trauma in this show. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And like you come to find out like his mom was drugging her and talking about she needed to lose weight or something like that was the thing. But and then Bojack's like, let me give her the worst room. Like his relationship with his mom is so terrible. And it just and for good reason. Like obviously it's like, dude, the only good thing that I have in my life, you know what I'm saying? At that time he's still thinking it's his daughter.
Yeah.
And you tried to kill her, like innocent, like you almost killed her. Like it's like, come on, man. Like it's like it was a really rough story.
Yeah. I kind of want to jump off from there because since we're already kind of talking about his mother, I know we've pretty much already said like a lot about her, but just like getting to see, like I said, like her flashback and her upbringing and like the trauma that his mother went through losing her brother as a kid when he went off to the army and to war and stuff, and then him not making it back, and then hold on, wait, no, hold on, I got that mixed up. His mom, okay. I got that part right. I was about to get mixed up with the brain surgery stuff. That was her mother. Yeah, Bojack's grandmother. Ended up having lobotomy.
Lobotomy, yeah.
Yeah, but just like her having to see the mother that Bojack's mother having to see her mother in that state of she was devastated from losing her son to now, like I said, like the mother seeing her mom in this almost vegetative state, and then how that translated to, when she was growing up, and then she fell in love with what was Bojack's dad's name?
Butterscotch. Yeah, Butterscotch.
Yeah, Butterscotch. But yeah, just saying like when they started getting together and stuff, and almost immediately you could see like, okay, Bojack is his dad. Just like from jump, the way he just showed up in her life, and just basically just a whirlwind of chaos entered into her life, and then how that spiraled into stuff over the years, and then them getting pregnant with Bojack, and to the end, like that episode where Bojack is giving the eulogy at what he thinks is his mother's funeral. And that like this show, no matter how serious the topic, there's some type of punchline somewhere. And I did not expect that, because just because of the way I knew something had to be off, just by the way they kept on not showing nobody in the crowd, and he was
Mhm.
just talking, but nobody was responding back.
Yeah.
And so now, then yeah, like he basically just like pours his heart out of like all these years of trauma and things he's felt about his mother, just pouring that all out there at the end. And then of
Mhm.
course that stinger of like, oh, he's at the wrong funeral.
Yeah, he's not
When
even
he
at the
goes,
right place.
yeah, of like, well, she wanted a. I'm trying to think. She wanted a open casket, but he was like, no, I'm not going to give her that at the end. But then like
Mhm.
he finally like, you know what, I'm gonna do this for her. And then he goes and
Mhm.
opens it and it's like, oh, it's not even her.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was like crazy. It's funny because it's like just imagine somebody giving a eulogy at the wrong funeral.
yeah,
Like it's like you said, it's a punchline somewhere, no matter what in this show.
yeah. And so I guess because I'm trying to think. I'm ready. I think there's maybe like a couple of other characters I kind of like loosely touch on or whatever. But before we kind of like wrap it up and stuff, kind of you got stuff you got to get to.
Mhm.
I think Todd.
Todd.
So
Oh, we can do a double, a Todd and Mr. Peanut Butter.
so well, I want to start off. Well, one thing I want to say up front with Todd. Todd reminds me of Buggy from One Piece, to how he keeps on failing upwards.
Yeah.
Of like he just sometimes you're just like how do you keep ending up in these situations you like and like I said a while ago, like how he's introduced this guy just bumming on Bojack's couch
Mhm.
to he's been CEO of multiple
Multiple
companies.
companies. Mhm.
Now he has his own place. He finally found a partner of some sort,
Mhm.
and he actually sometimes Todd be spitting that knowledge in his own weird dumb way. Like he be spitting facts
His his
sometimes.
his rants towards Bojack towards the end of the season were really really good rants.
Yeah,
Like there's one where he tells because Bojack had just got out of rehab,
yeah,
and like Todd was all like, man, he was all like, I think Bojack did something where he was trying to cover up the situation with Charlotte's daughter.
oh
And
yeah,
then he starts to try to cover it up. And then Todd is like, man, he said, you're starting to look out for yourself again. You turning back into the old Bojack.
yeah,
And I don't like it. He was all like,
yeah,
so let me know when he comes back and I'm out. And it was just like, he's even coming to the realization as much
yeah,
as Todd is just like, kind of like this person that doesn't have very the smarts and the wits of other
yeah,
characters, he's even coming to the realization that like you're a bad person. Like
yeah,
that's really really like telling of
yeah,
to what Bojack's character was, and you know what I'm saying. Even there was times where he was just like really like spitting facts, like you said.
yeah, and kind of like you said, just kind of tying a couple more of these characters together. Mr. Peanut Butter too, like his, his arcs and stuff, whatever. Once again, did not expect none of this going in because it's like okay, just this guy who basically got a spinoff of BoJack's show
Hmm.
to him ending up marrying Diane, and their whole story arc was crazy because of the fact that like you know the show does time jumps every so often because the fact that like they were married for like a good little
10 years.
bit,
Yeah.
yeah. And so like they were married for 10 years, and then they have their falling out and stuff, and then him getting with Pickles,
Uh, Pickles, yeah.
and
Man,
yeah,
that's one of my favorite episodes too. When he they having the surprise party for him,
yes,
and
yes,
he's telling
surprise
Pickles,
wedding,
yeah, surprise. So they're telling, he's telling Pickles about the affair that he
yeah,
had with Diane,
yeah,
and everybody is kind of hidden because they were planning on jumping out and saying surprise.
yeah,
So they're basically having an argument in their house, and everybody's hiding behind furniture and moving around. That was like a funny episode.
I
Mhm.
freaking love that episode, man, because yeah, just like watching everybody's reactions while they're hiding. Because like even when he's telling off about Pickle's dad, and they're kind of like ducked off underneath the counter or whatever, and the mom is trying to keep the
Somebody,
dad calm and stuff, and then
yeah, he's like, I hate your dad. And
yeah,
all of a sudden, he's like, man, he's like,
and then when the baby got loose and stuff, and like them trying to tossing the baby around and all that stuff, whatever. Yeah, that was super crazy. And then like the whole thing of them coming to the conclusion of like, well, you can cheat so that we'll be even, and that whole
thing.
thing of like, well, I've slept with like 30 something guys, but I still don't feel a connection and all
Mhm.
that stuff. And then of course she ends up just leaving and going off with that one guy at the end,
Yeah.
which I understand, because hey, she was still fairly young herself.
And
So it's
Mr.
like,
Pickles is still, I mean, Mr. Peanut Butter is still 40 or
yeah.
whatever. So,
So so yeah, man. So that was great, Mr. Peanut Butter. He was
character.
a character that kind of in the same way like Todd and Buggy, in a way of like, how do you keep on getting to success of
Mhm.
like becoming like
Household name.
household name, political candidate,
Yeah.
to the face of depression.
Like, it was just crazy. One of my favorite episodes with them was when Bojack stole the D, and that's another thing. Like they keep tropes going on and situations going, because
Yes.
he stole the D from the Hollywood sign to propose to Diane or show that he
Yeah.
loved Diane, and then for the rest of the BoJack show, they were calling it Hollywood
Yep.
instead of Hollywood. I was like, really? They just gonna keep calling it Hollywood?
and
So yeah,
and then the stinger at the end, where Mr. Peanut Butter, and for the whole birthday dad TV show he's on or whatever, he's like, you know what, the these suggestive jokes kill me. The way he was like, you know what, told him I wanted to give everybody the D. And
yeah,
then
yeah.
he was like, so I had him to make another D for the Hollywood side. So goodbye Hollywood, hello. And then it was like they goofed up. Now it's Hollywoob and
Yeah.
stuff. So I was like, okay, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And
Um, yeah, go ahead.
my last final episode, because I think I did five of my
Hmm.
favorite episodes, but the one that I loved the most was the water episode, the silent water, where like everything is quiet and like
Yes,
he can't talk because he's got the helmet on and he's
yes,
underwater and supposed to be going to like a premiere or something like
yeah.
that.
That
That was one of my favorite episodes because it
yeah,
was more so like you have to pay attention to what's going on. You can't just listen.
yeah.
And the seahorse gives birth to the baby seahorses, and all these crazy things is going on.
They
And then
blow
at
up
the
the
very
Laffy Taffy factory or whatever, or the Taffy
yeah, yeah,
factory.
it's like all this stuff happens, and then at the very end, one of the human guys, he's got a helmet on too. He presses a button. He's like, "Move out of the way!" And then Bojack looks and he's like, "What the?" And he presses the button. He's like, "Oh!"
Yeah,
And so like you watch the whole episode in silence when he could have talked, and he was
yeah.
trying to get a letter to somebody to
Oh,
apologize
he
to him.
wrote on it, but the ink, of course, because they're underwater.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a really I enjoyed that episode a lot
yeah.
too.
That was also one of my favorite episodes as well. Because like you said, pretty much everything you just said as well as just like I think with it being silent, like the music stood out even more. Like that episode
Hmm.
had just had like really cool, just really cool, chill music to just vibe to the whole episode.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that was definitely like one of my episodes that I loved. I'm trying to think, was there any other ones? I think as far as like favorite, I think that's kind of it or whatever. I guess just kind of like wrapping it up with BoJack. Just the fact that like like he went to rehab and stuff and went through all of that for 6 months, and then the struggle he was going through of not wanting to be back in that same house and things of that nature, to him just like flying around the country visiting people and stuff, whatever, of like, hey, just hey, I just need to not be in my house, to where he basically is losing a lot of money, and they have to sell his house and stuff to the moment that kind of like truly shown once again that especially Princess Carolyn was super ride or die for him, but also in a way Diane and Todd to an extent as well. Like those three was when they had to deal with the initial blowback of everything coming to light and stuff, and just like that whole moment where things were kind of like starting to slowly ramp up. And he did the first interview, and it was like, okay, cool. And Princess Carolyn was like, hey, you did the one interview, you're good, people love you, let's move on. But he got cocky, did a second interview, and now
they ate him alive.
Yes, they ate him alive. He had to go to jail for a while, and all that stuff, man. But I liked overall. I liked how I pretty much like loved the show overall. Just like how it went from just like how it started to the overarching arc, everybody's individual storylines and stuff. Everything just wrapped up really good. I'm trying to think. Oh, one last thing I just want to just give a quick shout out to the episode where Todd went to that one girl's house where everybody in her family was into something sexually related, where the dad was like a erotica book author, the mom used to be a porn star or something, the sister was doing something. That was just like a really funny episode for me. But yeah, I think
that was dope because of the sexuality that they played.
Yeah.
Asexual.
Yes.
They're asexuals. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's it for BoJack, man. So any other closing thoughts you want to say about it before we go to wrap up the show?
Love that show, man, and it'll probably be like my guilty pleasure. Well, like it'll probably be one of those things that like, oh, I'm cleaning the kitchen and I don't want to give time to an anime right now, so I'll just let it play. Like it's one of those things where you used to turn on TBS and Big Bang Theory will be playing and stuff like that. It'll probably be one of my things where it's just like I already know what's going on, so now I'll just let the show play and run its course.
Yeah,
loved it.
Awesome. Same here. Highly recommend it. If for some reason somebody listened to this whole thing and you hadn't watched it, go watch BoJack Horseman. It is a show that, like I said, I feel like it's kind of one of a kind in many aspects, but it is definitely a roller coaster ride. It is definitely something that you might have to take a break every now and then and step away for a bit because of how heavy certain subjects is, especially if they're talking about a subject that is like very close and personal to you. So like I said, just kind of know that going in. So yeah, so let's go ahead and wrap things up. So once again, shout out to my boy Steve for coming through for this record breaking extra long episode. But I kind of suspected that because like I said, me and you have a pretty good flow when we get to talking and stuff, so but it's all good. It was definitely fun. So yeah, thanks, man, for coming by.
Oh, for sure. Like anytime, man. Like just let me know. I'll be here. I'll work my schedule around it.
Yeah,
and figure it out.
Yeah. So as always, you can find all of my stuff at Dad Needs to Talk. That's on Twitter, Instagram, dadneedstotalk.com. Like I said, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And Steve, where can the lovely people find you at, man?
Yeah, you can follow me at ScubaSteve1428 on all social media. I have a link tree, and that'll take you to the ItMob page, and all 10 of us, we're doing Twitch and YouTube channels and crazy things of that nature. Even Double O Status, if you're in the New York area, Double O from our podcast will be representing ItMob at the Anime NYC and Anime Comic Con. So yeah, man, like please just check us out, man, and follow us, give us a listen if you enjoy, some of the things that we said on here.
Yeah. So once again, go check out Steve and all the awesome work him and the crew are doing over there at Inside the Mind of a Blurred. And with that, I'll catch you guys next week. It's gonna be pretty packed episode because we're starting the fall season of anime. So there's going to be a lot of impressions of new anime shows, as well as some double talks of some manga chapters, because talk about the stuff that's coming out this week that I missed, and then stuff for next week. So be on the lookout for that. But y'all have an awesome week. Y'all take care. Watch some anime, read some manga, and I'll catch y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.